On an unknown planet, a scavenger creature is pecking at a hand when it is suddenly grabbed by it, revealing that the person is Riddick. He emerges from the wreckage and crawls towards the water, but quickly realizes it is unfit to drink. After a moment of rest, he is awakened by howls. He places his foot between two rocks to set his broken leg, which is quite painful. Worse, his cries of pain alert hyena-like creatures to his presence. He puts on his protective goggles and sees them in the distance. He retreats to the water pit as they ferociously charge towards him. Riddick remains submerged until the creatures move away. Out of the water, he rests a bit and adjusts his leg, but behind him is one of those hyena-like creatures. It attacks him, and after exchanging blows, he throws a piece of his armor away, and like a dog, the creature chases it. He then further adjusts his leg and begins crossing the desert. Now, in a cave, he finally finds some water and drinks. While looking around, he sees some steps but is interrupted by the sound of the hyenas searching for him. As they approach the cave entrance, a strange creature in the water attacks the bravest hyena, killing it and making the others flee. When Riddick turns around, he faces that same creature and confronts it. Fortunately, the injured Riddick manages to dodge the creature's attack and exits the cave. He continues traveling through the unknown terrain until he finds an obelisk and rests among the broken pieces. He pulls another piece over him and falls asleep. He begins to recall his past before being left on that planet. His role as Lord Marshal of the Necromonger fleet left him restless. Siberius watches as Riddick searches for the planet Furia. In his room, one of the girls talks to him. She hears a noise and asks if the guards are still around to protect them. As he looks, she stabs him in the back to kill him. However, this does not kill the Furian, so he grabs and kills her, letting her body fall to the floor. Siberius enters and asks what happened and who encouraged her to attempt the assassination, and Riddick says it could be anyone. Riddick stands up, and the blood on the back of his chair is visible to all. He provokes him into attempting an assassination, but it doesn't work. Instead, Siberius recounts an old memory of a warrior like no other, with eyes like Riddick's. He mentions Furia, making Riddick ask where it is, but he doesn't reveal this information quickly. With a knife to his throat, Siberius reveals that the only existing map to the planet Furia is in his memories. So they make a deal. Siberius wants transcendence, so he offers Riddick a ship and passage to the planet he desperately seeks. It turns out they never took him to Furia, instead, they took him to some random planet. Realizing he had been deceived, Riddick quickly kills the soldiers. However, the man with the disfigured face takes the weapons of the dead soldiers and mercilessly shoots the ground where Riddick was standing. The rock gives way, and Lord Riddick falls to the ground, being swallowed by the debris, leading the man to think he is dead. Back to the present, days after recovering, he roams the hostile planet and sees that hyena cubs have died, noticing one that survived and takes it with him, later feeding it. Days pass, and while climbing a mountain, he sees traces of civilization ahead. One day, seeing that the alien hyena cub is sick and about to die, he gets an idea. He captures a scorpion-like creature, extracts its venom, and injects it into the hyena cub to see if it will die or somehow recover. Surprisingly, the animal reacts well, recovering, and after that, he does the same to himself to start building immunity to the venom. Then, after injecting himself several times and adapting, he stands up and prepares to reach the creature's location in the water. He faces the venomous creature, and after a few blows, it bites his leg, but he cuts off its head. He hears the baby hyena and looks back. As he looks at the small creature, a huge beast emerges from the water, and he turns around, immediately being attacked. Fortunately, he runs, grabs his animal, and returns to put an end to the beast in the water. Then, sliding under the beast, he cuts its belly, and as its entrails fall, it eats them back before dying. With his pet in hand, he escapes. A few months later, Riddick crosses one of the vast desert plains with his now adult hyena. His pet brings a ball to him, and he starts finding a pile of remains of other lives. Finally, after climbing a hill, he finds a building ahead. He enters and takes food and supplies from the place, eating with his animal. Eventually, a storm approaches, and Riddick announces that his time on this planet might be ending. He returns to the facility and is scanned and identified. It turns out he is wanted, and this scan results in a search signal being sent. In no time, a ship descends on the planet to retrieve him, dead or alive. Upon landing, they go out in search of him. The leader, Santana, enters the facility, followed by Diaz. They notice a message on the wall, telling them to leave the ship. Behind it, they prepare to search for him with the help of machines. Santana tells the youngest member of his crew, Luna, to wake the prisoner and kick her out of bed because they are overweight. He begins to remove the shackles and tells the prisoner to leave before he changes his mind. As she runs, Santana shoots her, and she unfortunately falls dead right in front of Riddick. Santana introduces himself to Riddick, saying he is going to kill him, and after his speech, more people arrive to collect the bounty for Riddick's head. Santana tries to prevent them from landing, but they ignore him. Colonel Boss John, Dahl, and his team land and disembark. Their arrival is not welcomed warmly. Santana makes it clear that Riddick is his, and John says that's fine, they will just watch. Night falls, and Riddick observes the group from afar. Two of Santana's crew members patrol the area. The machine detects something, and everyone looks. Santana realizes it's just a hyena, but Diaz shoots at it, luckily missing. The hyena then steals something. The machine begins to malfunction because Riddick is doing something in the distance to interfere with its frequency. Dahl notices something missing and John asks Santana if they swept the area before they arrive to check for traps. Santana gets flustered when one of his men finds something on the ground. He says not to pick it up, but the man does anyway. It's just a metal plate, but when he begins to calm down, thinking he was overreacting, his crew member advances and gets caught in a trap. Santana tells him not to move forward, but he doesn't listen and triggers another trap, this time fatally capturing him. This situation puts everyone on high alert. They go out in search of Riddick. While trying to find him, two of Santana's crew members are together before one is taken. The other, seeing his companion being dragged, starts shooting in the dark with Luna. Meanwhile, John tells his team to stay inside the ship. By morning, two are dead and one is missing. Santana goes to the other team seeking a partnership, but they are not receptive when he insults them, and Dahl punches him a few times. Eventually, they say yes, but the terms of the agreement are that John is in charge and Dahl is second in command. He gets hit again by Dahl for having a big mouth. John tells Santana that he wants Riddick alive and that after the first day, he can kill Riddick and do whatever he wants. He locks the place down and says they will hunt Riddick during the day. John looks outside and sees the hyena, so he tells Dahl to shoot it with a barium-covered bullet to track it easily. She misses the first time but hits the second. John and his team go out on hover bikes following the hyena to Riddick. They enter a cave, ready for action. They wander looking for their target and end up at the end of the cave finding a hideout. As they inspect it, they turn around and see a man standing in front of them and start shooting. John realizes it's one of Santana's missing crew members. Well, if he wasn't dead, he certainly is now. The hyena attacks them before fleeing. One of the crew members wonders where Riddick is. Back at the ship, Dahl cleans herself up before hearing a noise. John desperately tries to contact her but fails. After searching a bit, she goes back to cleaning herself. Riddick's hand extends and grabs things from the cleaning kit. Luna helps a crew member, and while he fixes the device, Riddick is sitting on top of the ship relaxing. He opens the hatch and inspects it with a small mirror. Over the radio, John makes it clear they are in danger, but Santana ignores the warnings. Meanwhile, Riddick sneaks up from behind, but Dahl enters, and Riddick retreats. The two argue before Santana attacks her. While Santana essentially threatens to assault her, Riddick is in the ducts ready to take down Santana. John arrives and sees the blood and message in the locker. Dahl says the blood is Santana's from when she beat him up. While Santana tries to open the locker, he is warned it's a bad idea. Initially, he doesn't back down, instead opening the locker that held essential pieces for the functionality of the ships. Then, Dahl draws her gun, and so do all the others. John tells them to calm down before doing Riddick's work for him. Everyone backs off and lets Santana open the locker door. Luckily, nothing happens. Inside, there are only a few essential supplies. Afterward, John plans the course of action, including blocking the cave. While listening, one of the crew members named Moss sees something. He goes to inspect and notices that the ceiling window is open. He checks it and is quickly apprehended by Riddick. He asks Moss if he is scared and Moss responds that he is. The next moment when Moss is found, it is too late as Riddick has taken everything. They have no means to leave the planet. John goes out and orders them to lock the place down. He wants them to stay on the perimeter. They argue about what to do with this situation they find themselves in. Their ships are incompatible, so combining power sources is impossible. Asking for help doesn't seem like a good option, so it's not an alternative. Their thoughts are interrupted by Riddick himself. They look around but see nothing and realize the sound is coming from one of the dead hunter's devices. John says he will find Riddick, but he doesn't need to as Riddick is coming to them. As he approaches, everyone lowers their weapons. John reveals what he is looking for. He wants to know what happened on the planet 10 years ago. When Dahl prepares to fire a horse tranquilizer at Riddick, they continue talking and Santana moves closer, visibly more nervous than when Riddick wasn't right in front of him. Riddick then tells everyone that in 24 hours, no one will want to be on the planet when the rain comes. He could keep killing, but he prefers to make a deal to get out of there. He says he wants one of the ships. He says the deal is that when the rain hits the station, he will take a ship politely, or he will start killing again. As he walks away, Santana is about to shoot when the hyena attacks. Dahl hits Riddick with a tranquilizer, then with 3 more. When she fires the 4th tranquilizer, he falls and Santana shoots the hyena, killing it. John punches Santana and then knocks out Riddick, taking him prisoner. Moments later, with Riddick already chained up, John interrogates him. He asks about his son and if he survived the accident 10 years ago. Riddick doesn't give the answers he wants. He tells Santana that if the chains come off, he will be the first to die in 5 seconds with the machete Santana carries. After some back and forth yielding few results, he tells Dahl to look outside. He asks what she sees, and once she describes it, he says to let him know when she notices something more. John yells at him for answers about his son but gets nothing. Suddenly the rain starts, and Riddick announces that John's time is up. John ends the questioning and agrees to hand him over to Santana. Then, when he is about to be executed, the machine detects movement, and everyone runs to check. Outside, Santana looks at the monitors and sees something strange approaching. The lights are turned on, revealing venomous creatures emerging from the ground. One of the crew members starts shooting and is killed by a beast, which does this through the metal hull of the facility. The group shoots at the beast, but Moss is taken by one of them through the roof. Everyone tries to kill the approaching venomous creatures, but Riddick laughs at them. He says that in 60 seconds, they will take his chains off and must strive to leave the planet. He says it will get worse, and they wonder how that is possible. Well, he argues it will get worse because no one knows how many are buried there. John agrees with the plan, so they have a deal. Now, John is about to take the chains off, and Santana places a blade to his throat and says the chains stay on. Dahl tries to help, but he strikes her, and she is restrained by Diaz. Santana is about to kill Riddick, but then his blade is kicked to the ceiling, and he is thrown back to the locker. After getting up, the blade falls and Riddick sends it towards him, piercing his head and killing him. Riddick pushes the box forward, and Santana's head falls into it, as promised. Everyone is shocked, a little impressed, maybe afraid. They free him, and everyone goes out to start killing some venomous creatures and get to the ship. However, Vargas is bitten by a baby creature and Diaz manages to kill it, but Vargas dies from the venom. They take the hover bikes and head towards the location of the pieces stolen and hidden by Riddick. Without weapons, he has to be creative, killing creatures with the flames of his bike. Diaz pushes John off the mountain, but luckily, Riddick saves him. They arrive at the location, and while Riddick digs up the pieces, he reveals that John's son had a morphine addiction. While talking, Diaz sabotages one of the bikes before trying to kill them both. He really is no match for Riddick. Even with great strength, the Furian fatally wounds his enemy with his blade. However, before Diaz falls dead, he shoots and destroys the last bike on the way, leaving the two without transportation. Now, with no choice, they start walking, killing venomous creatures everywhere. They face many of them, successfully defeating them, but eventually Riddick is attacked and severely wounded. John throws a bomb and kills the remaining creatures in the nearby area. He tries to help Riddick, but seeing that he can't carry him, he decides to leave him behind. Then he returns to the ship and tells the others they need to get out of there. Riddick ends up grabbing hot rocks from the explosion, closes his wound, and starts running to get away from those things. He keeps climbing, trying to escape the deadly attacks, but there are too many of them to handle alone. Riddick tries to fight with his remaining strength, but when attacked, it seems like the end for him. Fortunately, shots from the sky killed them all, revealing that John returned. They pick up Riddick and get him out of there. Moments later, with the two ships, they escape the deadly storm and the planet, and after that, they part ways. Shortly after, Riddick is on his way home to face his demons and those who betrayed him. The scene shifts, and we see Riddick approaching the man with the disfigured face, and he reveals that Siberius never intended to betray him, but the disfigured man betrayed him because Riddick is a non-believer. Then Riddick kills him. He then asks the woman if Siberius is alive or dead, and she says both, as he has achieved transcendence.